Hey y'all, today we are in Greenville, South Carolina in late winter and we're in our backyard to harvest stinging nettle.
Yes, you heard that right. We are intentionally harvesting stinging nettle, that terrible stinging plant that everyone from outdoor enthusiasts to farmers don't like, is actually edible and medicinal, and it's one of our favorite plants.
Now when someone says something is edible, they might mean like technically edible, but not very good. But in the case of stinging nettle, it's actually one of our favorite vegetables.
You say a lot of things are edible
Yeah,
that I would not eat.
yeah. My palate might be a little different from most people's.
So stinging nettle is actually really good. It's very similar to spinach. It's maybe got like a little more tooth to it, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
It's very nutrient dense from both a micro and macronutrient standpoint, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. The other cool thing about stinging nettle is that more and more research is showing it has a wide range of medicinal benefits, and we're also going to take a dive into that information in this video.
So here's a quick overview of what you're going to learn with us on this Untamed Eats food adventure. First, how to find and identify the two species of stinging nettle in the wild in the United States.
Second, you're going to find out how to harvest stinging nettle without getting stung, which is quite important. Yes, you could wear gloves if you want to, but I'm going to show you how to harvest stinging nettle without gloves, and you can impress your friends with your magical powers. And if you really want to impress your friends or your 6-year-old, I'll show you how to harvest and eat stinging nettle raw.
Ooh. Third, what are other uses for stinging nettle? Stinging nettle has lots of cool uses beyond just eating it, including medicinal applications.
Quick side note, since we are in our backyard, we keep pet and backyard ducks, so you might hear some quacks throughout this video. Just don't think you're going crazy. That is quite real.
And you might see a little fluffy butt walk through the video frame.
Cute little fluffy butts. Fourth, since we do love stinging nettle so much that we decided to grow it in our garden over a decade ago, we're going to give you some growing tips if you decide that you want to also grow stinging nettle in your garden.
And fifth, how does stinging nettle actually sting you? And more importantly, what are some medicinal plant remedies you can use if you do happen to get stung? Now, for this demonstration, I have volunteered Erin's body to science because I'm not doing it.
Can you just let me sting you like one time with the nettle? I'll give you a back massage.
Yes to the back massage, no to the nettle.
Sixth, and finally, we're going to take you back to our kitchen and share some of our favorite stinging nettle recipes that we developed over the years.
Sounds good.
Let's start by going through the 4-point Untamed Eats framework for safely identifying any wild forage food.
Number 1 is season. When does it occur? Number 2 is geographic range. Where in the United States, in our case, do you find it? Number 3, key identifying features. What do you need to look for to know that you have the right thing? And number 4, any poisonous lookalikes, things that we need to be worried about, warnings, stuff like that.
Getting good at this. You've done this a few times. To start with, you should know that there are 2 primary species of stinging nettle to be on the lookout for in the United States or North America. And the first one is Urtica dioica, and that one is called European stinging nettle, common name, because it's from Europe. The second one is called Urtica gracilis, and that one is here native to the United States. And there are subspecies under each one of those, but we're just going to keep it simple and just know that those are the 2 primary species.
Those are not very imaginative names. Our son would have named them something like Firestar Midget Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, that'd be better for stinging nettle.
Yeah.
So we weren't involved in the committee, neither was our son. Anyway, to keep things simple here, from now on, we're just going to refer to either American stinging nettle or European stinging nettle rather than using the scientific names.
And sometimes we might just say stinging nettle.
Yeah. So we're at the back side of our property right now, and we're going to show you a stinging nettle patch that's just starting to break dormancy and just getting to the point where you can start harvesting it. It's early March now here in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm going to show you how to identify it at this stage in development so that this information is going to apply to stinging nettle that you find anywhere in the United States. So the question is, if you were in the wild or on a hike somewhere and you saw this plant on the ground, how would you know that it's stinging nettle?
To find out, let's go back to number 1 of the Untamed Eats framework, geographic range.
Geographic range. So you can find stinging nettle anywhere in the United States with the exception of Hawaii. It's the only state where you can't find it. And we often see stinging nettle when we're out foraging for morel mushrooms in early March or mid-March. And we'll see it next to creek banks or river banks and low-lying floodplains as a popular place. We'll also see it
rich soils.
Rich soils, yep. Likes very rich soil, which it has in abundance here in our garden. And so that's where you really want to look if you're, at least in our region of the world, is basically next to riverbanks, next to creek banks, and low-lying floodplains with rich soil and moist soil. So we can check that off the list. We are within a geographic range and an environmental context in which you might be able to find stinging nettle.
Number 2 is seasonality. Stinging nettle begins to break dormancy as soon as the ground begins to thaw in early spring.
Yep. So right now, like I said, we're in early March, and stinging nettle is just putting on the size that you can start harvesting it, the growth tips. And that's one of the reasons it's been popular throughout history, is because it's one of the earliest veggies you can harvest, either domesticated or wild veggies. So people have used it for that reason. So we can check seasonality off the list. We are within the seasonal range where we might expect to see stinging nettle beginning to break dormancy.
Number 3 is key identifying features. Let's begin by talking about what stinging nettle leaves look like.
So this information is going to apply to both American stinging nettle and to European stinging nettle because the two species look almost identical. The leaves are usually between 1 to 5 inches long, depending on age and growing conditions.
They have an opposite arrangement, meaning the leaves attach on opposite sides of the stem.
They're deep green in color on the top and slightly lighter green on the underside with a tinge of purple when young.
They're spear or heart-shaped with a pointed tip.
They have serrated edges.
The underside of the leaves and stems are covered in tiny stinging hairs called trichomes.
So you could technically help identify stinging nettle by getting stung and causing yourself pain, but don't worry, there are easier ways to make the ID.
What about the stems? Those look interesting.
In addition to the stinging trichomes, another distinguishing feature of stinging nettle is that it has four-sided, square-shaped stems, like plants in the mint family. However, stinging nettle is not in the mint family.
Also, some accounts say that American stinging nettle can grow taller than European stinging nettle, so there may be minor differences in height as well. This is Mr. Moo, our cat. You'll be seeing him coming in and out of the video as we continue to film.
In his fancy Birds Be Safe collar. In the summer, once the plants reach about maybe 3 to 4 feet in height, they'll start to produce little flower clusters with seeds underneath the leaves. And one of the interesting differences between the two species is that European stinging nettle is predominantly dioecious, meaning it basically is either male or female plants with either male or female flowers, whereas American stinging nettle is predominantly monoecious, meaning it produces both male and female flowers. And on the monoecious American stinging nettle, the male flowers are more at the top of the flower clusters and the female flowers are more at the bottom, so that it drops the pollen down and finds the female flowers that way.
Romantic.
Love is love. Also note that on stinging nettle, the female flowers do not ask for a massage prior to pollination. Ow.
In addition to spreading by seed, they can also spread by runners, called stolons, which allows them to form really dense colonies.
So if you're in the wild and you went through that checklist on a plant, then the chances are you have stinging nettle, so congratulations.
Which brings us to number 4 of the Untamed Eats framework. Are there any warnings or poisonous lookalikes?
There are warnings and poisonous lookalikes to consider. So the first thing on the warning side, the obvious one is
it stings.
It stings. So be careful when you're harvesting it or getting your stinging nettle, because it can create quite an unpleasant experience if you brush against it or get it on your hands. Another warning is we recommend only picking the tender young growth tips up until the plants are maybe a couple feet tall. Once they start to form flowers, then they form what's called cystoliths inside the leaves, and those are little calcium carbonate crystals, and they create kind of an unpleasant mouthfeel. You really don't want to eat them. And so not a problem if you're using stinging nettle tea, but if you're eating it for culinary purposes, that's not ideal.
What about poisonous lookalikes?
So two really common stinging nettle lookalikes that you hear about this time of year are catnip, which is not a native plant, but that looks a lot like stinging nettle. The leaves look almost identical. Our cats love it, obviously, which is why it's called catnip.
And it doesn't sting.
And it doesn't sting, so you can very quickly tell that apart. Number 2 is dead nettle, purple dead nettle. Sometimes people will think that looks like stinging nettle. That's an annual weed. We also eat that. And that one also does not produce a sting, even though, and it sounds kind of scary because it's called dead nettle. Actually, it has nothing to do with death. So those are 2 lookalikes that are not poisonous. One poisonous lookalike to be considered of with stinging nettle on the eastern half of the United States is called white snake root. And this is a plant in the aster family. And when it's first breaking dormancy, it can look very similar to stinging nettle, at least the leaves can. As it starts to develop, it'll send up a shoot, and those form a nice umbel with white flowers that are very conspicuous. So stinging nettle looks nothing like that when it flowers. The other way you can very quickly tell it apart is that white snake root has a smooth and round stem, whereas stinging nettle has that square stem. And so smooth round stem, white snake root, spiky, hairy, square stem equals stinging nettle. Stingy equals stinging nettle.
So can we sting you yet?
No, not yet. Patience is a virtue.
So now that we know we have stinging nettle, how do we harvest it and handle it without getting stung?
Yeah, and the obvious answer to that, and what most people do, is wear gloves. But
that's what I do.
Yeah, but what's the fun in that? So what I want to do is show you how I harvest stinging nettle with my bare hands without getting stung. You're only going to be harvesting the tender young growth tips. What I do is carefully pinch down on a leaf like this, which then presses the trichomes down rather than allowing them to go into my skin. Then I use long scissors held in my other hand to cut through the stem a couple of inches from the top of the plant and just above the lower leaf node so that the plant can send up new growth tips from here. Put the growth tip in your harvest basket and repeat. So here's a cool trick you can use to eat stinging nettle raw. And what I'm going to do is take my thumb and index finger and grab the top of the leaf, pinch it together so that the trichomes, which are on the underside of the leaf, aren't touching my finger. Hey, Moo, you want to try this too? And then, since the trichomes aren't touching my finger, they're not stinging me, I'm going to keep the leaf folded up, chew it with the leaf still folded in my mouth. And before the trichomes have a chance to sting me, they're basically pulverized, and also in the process, the leaf is releasing chemicals into my mouth that actually help alleviate any sting. So here we go. I'm going to pick the leaf, put my finger on it, fold it, pull it off the plant. It's still folded. I'm about to eat some raw stinging nettle here.
We need some dramatic music. No, not quite. Yes, that's the one.
And raw stinging nettle actually tastes really good. It tastes sort of like, most similar flavor might be like a cucumber flavor, kind of a really fresh, vibrant flavor. Very unique. Much different from the Cooke stinging nettle, which tastes more like spinach. Now, generally, you want to either cook or pulverize or ferment or process in some way stinging nettle before you eat it. You don't want to just come out and eat a bunch of it in your garden usually. But at the end of the video, we give you recipes that include both cooked or some of our favorite cooked stinging nettle recipes, as well as some raw recipes.
Is stinging nettle nutritious?
Yes, in fact, it might be what some nutritionists refer to as a superfood, given its nutrient density and all of its medicinal and health benefits.
It's pretty high in protein too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's up to 30% dry weight in protein, so it's one of the
Wow.
highest protein veggies you can get. So in addition to that macronutrient profile, it also has a really incredible micronutrient profile. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals. For instance, vitamins A, C, and K are very high in stinging nettle. And what about on the mineral side?
It's got a lot of calcium, magnesium, and potassium.
Ooh, potassium. So
All of which are good for muscles and brain.
Absolutely. The other nice thing about stinging nettle is, as a fibrous vegetable, is it has lots of dietary fiber. So really good
for your gut.
Oh.
It's really good for your gut microbes.
Yeah. So
nom, 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 nom.
yeah, the American diet not being very high in dietary fiber, this is a great food to add to it, stinging nettle. Plus, it's really high in other plant compounds like polyphenols and carotenoids, things that can really reduce systemic inflammation in your body.
And oxidative stress.
And oxidative stress.
Starting to see why we love stinging nettle so much.
Yep. So now that you know stinging nettle is a superfood for humans, you might also be interested in learning about some of its other unique uses.
And other things that love it.
For instance, there are unique pollinators that use stinging nettle for a host plant, like these red admiral butterflies. What's cool is their caterpillars cut partway through the plant stem to make it flop over. Then they spin silk around the leaves to make a protected area to feed inside where predators can't get to them. Eventually, they form a chrysalis inside their nettle hideout.
Stinging nettle also makes a great nutrient-dense animal feed. Now, most animals naturally avoid it because it's, stingy, but you can dehydrate it and use it and add it as supplemental feed to anything from ruminants to poultry.
Yeah, so if we were going to add it to our duck's feed, what we do is take these growth tips and basically dry them down, pulverize them in a blender, kind of make like a green food powder, and then add it to a bowl with our duck's favorite treats, whether that's peas or chopped tomatoes, something like that, and they just wolf it all down together. So you can do this if you have ruminants, cows, goats, whatever it happens to be, or poultry, chickens, ducks, guineas, whatever poultry you happen to raise.
And number 3, if you're really into fiber arts like I am, you can use it to make yarn. It's very similar to linen, which is spun from flax, and you can use the leaves to make dye.
In fact, Susan made this entire outfit out of spun stinging nettle. I'm not being serious. Number 4 is that the medicinal benefits of stinging nettle are truly remarkable. And when we say medicinal benefits, we're not necessarily talking about something hearsay from our cousin who lives in a yurt and worships crystals. What we're talking about is medical evidence in peer-reviewed journals that's established the medicinal benefits of stinging nettle. And a lot of those are backing up how stinging nettle has traditionally been used in folk medicine, which is pretty interesting.
It's getting pretty bright. I think we might need to move.
Time to move. A quick side note. If you'd like to print out a free one-sheet stinging nettle quick guide, please visit tyrantfarms.com/untamed-eats. You can use our quick guides to start creating your own foraging book. Okay, we're back in a little less sunny spot here. So here are some of the potential medicinal benefits of stinging nettle, and we're going to narrate these like a pharmaceutical drug company.
Stinging nettle can be used to help treat or prevent urinary problems caused by an enlarged prostate, reduce inflammation caused by osteoarthritis and other inflammatory disorders, reduce allergies, prevent or slow hair loss, prevent the development of cardiovascular disease, lessen the symptoms of menopause, and prevent or slow the onset of neurodegenerative diseases. Side effects of stinging nettle use may include having too many ducks and excessively ruminating about wild plants and fungi. Consult your astrologer or harrispecks before use.
So that's a rather impressive range of benefits for a plant that's often considered a noxious weed.
Can I sting you now?
No, or you will not get a massage for a week. So now you might better understand why we choose to grow stinging nettle in our own garden, which brings us to our growing tips if you decide that you want to grow stinging nettle in your garden as well.
Stinging nettle is a hardy, low-maintenance perennial that can actually outlive you, but it does require some forethought and planning.
So here are 4 tips to help you grow stinging nettle in your garden.
So our first tip is to try to grow a species or subspecies that is native to where you live. Of course, you can use the internet. You can reach out to local gardening groups. Maybe there's a native plant nursery that can help you source starts and/or seed. We actually grew ours from seed to begin with. If you find stinging nettle growing in the wild in an undeveloped area, there's a good chance it's native. You could dig some up, roots and all, to transplant.
Number 2 is you want to grow stinging nettle in a contained area. Now, an ideal spot for this would be like a raised bed, like a raised metal bed, for instance, or maybe a spot that's surrounded by concrete. Otherwise, the stinging nettle is going to spread to areas where you might not want it. Once the flowers start to develop, you might also consider actually cutting the top of the plant off so that it doesn't set seed, and you can just chop and drop those, mulch them right in place. And that will prevent the plant from setting seed and spreading via seed.
Choose growing spots that don't get a lot of foot traffic, and maybe don't grow it next to your kid's jungle gym.
Yeah, probably a great idea.
Number 3, make sure your stinging nettle is in nutrient-rich soil and you keep it plenty moist. It's drought tolerant once it's established, but as it's starting to grow, you need to make sure it stays nice and moist.
Number 4, once your stinging nettle goes dormant in the winter, you're going to want to put a nice thick layer of mulch over the top. We use wood chips, maybe 3 to 5 inches thick. You can go that deep. And that's really going to build up the soil and optimize the soil health throughout the year. And the stinging nettle is vigorous enough that it will shoot right through that mulch when it breaks dormancy in spring or late winter. And that's also then going to block out maybe annual weeds that aren't as vigorous as stinging nettle.
Can I sting you now?
That's coming next. So now it's time to show you exactly how stinging nettles sting and to test some common remedies to see which ones are most effective. Before we do, and this is really cool, we're going to show you what stinging nettle trichomes, which are the tiny stinging hairs, what they look like under a digital microscope. Wow, those look intense. So when you brush up against a stinging nettle plant, these silica-tipped trichomes that you see here actually break off into your skin and then release a slurry of irritating chemicals which include histamine, formic acid, acetylcholine, and serotonin. So it's like having 1,000 tiny little hypodermic needles in you. And the chemicals in those needles immediately cause pain, inflammation, and itchiness. As someone who surfs and has been stung countless times by both jellyfish and stinging nettle, I can tell you that the 2 stings are pretty comparable. How long the sting lasts is going to vary by person and also by how badly you got into the stinging nettle. For me, the worst of it is usually over within about 15 minutes. Then there's a lingering, kind of tingling, warm sensation that will keep going for several hours and maybe even some itchiness. And that can even go into the next day.
So, can I sting you now?
You sure you don't want to switch roles here?
Give me that arm.
We're going to test 4 spots here because we're also testing 4 remedies. Dock leaves, broadleaf plantain leaves, chickweed, and stinging nettle leaves. All the leaves will be chewed into a poultice individually before applying. All right, here we go. So I'm actually using the other phone so that we can record the physical reaction that takes place here.
All right, less talking, more stinging. Ready?
Go ahead. Oh yeah. Get it in there. Make sure you rub it hard. You actually have to kind of rub it down.
Okay.
There we go. That's it. Oh yeah.
I feel bad.
Flip it over because you want to make sure you get fresh trichomes. There we go. Get some fresh ones too. Some fresh, so we make sure we're having a good reaction. Yep. There we go. Oh yeah. Starting to feel it.
Yeah. Is that good?
Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah. Now, typically, if you're out somewhere, what you'd want to do is
Not roll in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to roll it, but you would want to basically kind of wash this off with like cold soapy water to try to get some of the trichomes out. You can start to see the reaction starting to take place there. Very similar to a jellyfish, like I've already mentioned. How are you feeling about it? You happy with what you've done?
No, I feel bad.
And move the cats back. All right. So you can see, well, it's starting to form a little bit. Takes a minute to really get going. Probably about 60 seconds into it right now. You want to do some more just to make sure we get a good heaping dose in there?
I mean, not really, but I will.
We're gonna go through a little bit more pain. So you would want to wash this off with some kind of cold soapy water. Oh yeah, it's feeling even better. There you go, fresh stuff. Woo! To try to get the needles out of you is the first step. But we're doing this as if you were out in the wild and you don't have access to cold soapy water, which is very likely. In which case you'd try to go for some kind of a plant remedy. So again, what we're testing here. Okay, I think I'm fully nettled up.
Hello, Moo.
And obviously we have not started testing the remedies. We're going to give this a couple minutes to set in. Just giving it a nice little squeeze. Try to get those more of the chemicals to release from the needles.
You get stung so much, so I don't know if you're gonna react.
Also get
in
stung
big
a
way.
lot. So it doesn't really bother me as much as it might if you got stung for the first time. I'm always harvesting stinging nettle for ourselves and for restaurants. So, all right, starting to see some like little spots starting to bubble up there. All right, so we are at about 2 minutes in, and that would probably give you enough time to maybe find a plant remedy nearby to test out. And we're going to do the testing for you. Maybe you can try to find which one is the best out of the.
Which one do you think is going to be the best?
If I had to guess,
If it was Sebastian and he was stung, and you could pick one thing.
if it was our son, I'd go for the first available thing because there is also something to the placebo effect. So my guess would probably be plantain.
All right.
All right.
That'd be my guess too.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's
Oh yeah,
test.
it's starting to wilt.
Oh yeah, getting
Let's
some
see the
nice
welts coming out.
bubbles.
All right, so we'll start with Doc.
Yep.
Put it right there.
Give it a
That way
nice
you can get
smushing.
some.
You want to kind of smush it on there too.
Okay.
Oh, you're gonna get them all in there first. Okay.
Chickweed. I'm trying to leave some unexposed also so that we have a relative comparison. All right. Doc. Ooh.
And then rub it like kind of across towards you also.
Okay. Well, I was trying to leave that
There's a cooling effect immediately. Like all these are actually starting to feel better like immediately upon contact.
Okay, let me put this down.
So, but there's also the question of like kind of an immediate relief versus a long-term relief. So we'll see, we'll kind of give you a play-by-play of what's going on here. So as of right now, everything's feeling pretty good. Can still feel some stinginess in there.
Yeah,
probably
I didn't rub it on everything.
Yeah. Okay. It's a nice look. Maybe I could
Delicious.
go hang out in public with this on my arm. Let's creep people out a little bit. It's actually going to be absolutely infuriated that we did this to their chickweed, by the way. That's like their favorite thing. So weird, it's kind of switched over from now to more of a sting to kind of almost like a burn type feel, but not in an unpleasant way, kind of a warm sensation. So that's where we are. So we'll continue to do updates. We're not going to we'll let you know as time sequence goes on here over the course of hours and even days what happens tomorrow. See which one ended up having the best results. So stay tuned. Are you not entertained?
What?
So here's my verdict on which plant remedy works best for stinging nettle. All 4 treatments provided immediate relief, but the sting came back after the poultices were removed. Also, they all ranked equally when it came to the visual blistering effect. However, over time, I'd say the chickweed was number 1 on providing pain relief, followed by plantain, then dock, then stinging nettle coming in last place. In fact, 36 hours later, the stinging nettle spot was still irritated even after the other 3 spots were cleared up. So if you get stung by stinging nettle in the wild, go for chickweed or plantain to help alleviate the symptoms. Before we get back to our kitchen, let's see what a James Beard-nominated, Michelin-recommended chef can do with stinging nettle. We're heading to Topsoil Restaurant in Travelers Rest, South Carolina to meet up with Chef Adam Cooke. These are not easy to earn. All right, so for those who don't think the stinging nettle can be gourmet food, this is Chef Adam at Topsoil Restaurant. He's got a Michelin recommendation on his front door.
Real life chef.
Yeah, for real. So what are you planning to make with these guys?
All right, last week we did a beautiful puree. We did blanched cucumber, the nettles, and a little bit of lemon, and we served it with a chilled fish dish, and it was fantastic. I think this week we're going to work on an escargot dish in a similar vein, but we gave it a good long blanch and some nice salty water just so you can kind of smear it in your fingers, and then it gets really smooth, and there's like nothing greener than this.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
Now we're back in our kitchen and we're going to show you how to eat stinging nettle, including some of our favorite recipes that we've developed over the years.
Here's a simple way to think about using stinging nettle. For any spinach recipe that calls for cooked or baked spinach, you can substitute stinging nettle 1-to-1 for the spinach.
We have a lot of great stinging nettle recipes on our website. If you're watching YouTube on your television, you can use your phone to scan the QR code, which will jump you to the list of recipes on our website, and you can follow along as we read them here.
Or if you're following along on your phone or on your computer, you can just go to the video description and we have the link to all of our recipes there.
Okay, here we go.
First, we have a raw stinging nettle miso soup, which we also call Incredible Hulk soup due to the bright green color.
And protein content. A few recipes which use sauteed or blanched stinging nettle are stinging nettle pesto with green garlic leaves. If you love the flavor of garlic and have garlic growing in your garden, you've got to try this recipe. The next recipe is stinging nettle labna dip. Labna is a fermented dairy product that's like a cross between yogurt and sour cream. This dip puts standard spinach dips to shame and is way healthier. You could also use yogurt as a substitute if you don't have labna. Then we have stinging nettle duck egg pasta with white whole wheat flour. This pasta can be a base for so many delicious spring greens.
We love using this pasta with morel mushrooms, as you can see here. Some of our baked stinging nettle recipes you should try are stinging nettle frittata, which is a whole meal in one pan, and a rather delicious meal. Stinging nettle quiche, which is a weekend brunch favorite. We also share a good whole wheat pie crust recipe on this one.
Since we love fermentation, Erin decided to try out a new fermented recipe on this one.
It's a lacto-fermented stinging nettle with green garlic, honey, and lime quat. Now, if you don't have lime quat, we happen to have a tree. Don't worry about that. You can just use lemon juice instead. You can use your lacto-fermented stinging nettle like sauerkraut as a small probiotic side dish. It'd probably make a great addition to a sandwich. Here, we're using it as an hors d'oeuvre by adding a small bit on top of a cracker with Parmesan cheese. Then we garnish it with a seasonal edible flower to add a nice pop of color. Now, since this was a small test batch, the trickiest part of this recipe for me was trying to find the right size containers and ferment weights. If you want to give our lacto-fermented stinging nettle a shot, here's what you're going to need.
Ideally, you'll want to have a food scale that can measure grams and ounces, especially if you want to do a larger batch than we're making here. You'll need a blender like this small Ninja, and you'll also want a small glass jar like a half pint or less, a fermenting weight that fits inside, and a fermenting lid.
For ingredients, you'll need 2 ounces of freshly cut stinging nettle groat tips, which is about 7 cups loosely packed, 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized honey, 1 tablespoon of fresh citrus juice, 3 grams of salt, or about 1 tablespoon if you don't have a kitchen scale, a couple leaves of green garlic. You could also use the greens from wild garlic, which is a common invasive yardweed, or just mince some garlic cloves.
Before getting started, you might want to cut up your stinging nettle into smaller pieces with scissors to help them fit into your blender more easily. Then, just add all your other ingredients and blend until they're evenly mixed and your stinging nettle has been pulverized into small bits.
You'll probably need to use a spatula or spoon to scrape the sides of your blender a few times before it's done. Then transfer your blended ingredients into the jar, put the weight on top, and the fermentation lid on the jar. Or you can improvise clumsily like I've done here.
The ferment is done in about 7 days, but you can go a little less or a little more time. Take small taste tests starting around day 5 to see what you think. Once it's done to your liking, put an airtight lid on it and stick it in your fridge.
Ready to give it a try?
Why not?
Cheers. So what'd you think?
It was really good. It had some sweetness and some umami. I think the Parmesan cheese added a nice sharpness.
Yep. Nice combination of flavors.
Nice work.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Now you know how to use stinging nettle, one of our favorite homegrown or wild veggies. And you also have some possible plant remedies you can use if you happen to get stung by stinging nettle when you're out on a hike.
Can I sting you again?
No. Hey, what the heck?
It's catnip.
Ah, you tricky. Okay, she's got catnip, which looks just like stinging nettle. She tricked me. Please subscribe and share.